I have a question for you. If social media is making us more anxious, more distracted, and more divided, why on earth should the church invest more in it? I don't know if you've heard about it, but Jonathan Haidt wrote a book called The Anxious Generation, and the subtitle is How the Great Rewiring of Childhood is Causing an Epidemic of Mental Illness. And Jonathan Haidt's book, there's different people who have different opinions on the research and some of the conclusions that we can draw from that research. But the thing that's not disputable about the book is that it's caused a lot of important conversation. And Jonathan Haidt calls this the great rewiring of childhood. And it doesn't take very long scrolling on a social media feed to know that social media is impacting adults just as much as it is our children. So Jonathan Haidt, he's not wrong in the fact that social media is having a huge, often negative impact on our society. So the question is, why should the church care? People are spending hours and hours on these platforms, and it has a negative impact on people. Why should we care? Welcome to the Social Media Church podcast, where we believe that the Great Commission calls us to the digital world. And our goal with every episode is to bring you expert advice, practical strategies, and a kingdom-first mindset that sees social media as a mission field. And in this episode, we are exploring this question: why should we as the church care about social media? And we're going to do that by considering 4 truths about social media. Those 4 truths are peril, presence, potential, and path. So let's dive in with truth number 1, the peril. What's broken about social media? Research is clear that there are mental health impacts, especially among youth, from social media. There's heightened levels of anxiety. There's just constant comparison. There's isolation because people feel like they're connected through their screens, even though they're not connected in real life. So we know that social media is impacting mental health for young people and for adults. We know that social media is full of misinformation. It doesn't take, you just open up your social media feeds, go to some news sites, follow any sort of hot button or controversial topic, and you're gonna find misinformation. You're gonna find polarization. Okay, social media, the algorithms, people are shouting through their social media feeds, and they're pitting people who disagree against each other, and it's creating this polarized environment. You see a ton of performative identity on social media. You get this snapshot glimpse of the perfect world that your friends or your neighbors or somebody that you want to be like someday has, and you get the sense that that's what their life is always like. There's a performative identity in there. We know that social media companies have algorithms that are optimized for your attention. Their whole goal is to keep your eyes and your attention on their platforms. They don't want you to leave. So everything about it is about trying to figure out, what are you interested in? And it's getting scary good at it. What are you interested in? What keeps you scrolling? What keeps you watching? And then the algorithms feed you more of what that algorithm determines you're interested in, so that you stay there longer. Social media companies, they're interested and optimized for attention, not for growth and formation. And also, churches aren't immune. It's so easy as church leaders, as ministry leaders, to get caught up in metrics like views and likes and comments and followers, and measure our impact based on how our posts are performing on social media. And honestly, if we have success on social media, then there's a pull to it. There's a dopamine hit, and it can really start to pull our attention for discipleship into online presence, and it can start to impact our decisions in terms of what we say and how we say it. So it's obvious. The truth number 1 is there's peril to social media. It's broken. It's not perfect. And if these problems are real, as the church, should we just step away? Should we say we don't want to be a part of the problem? We don't want to contribute to the way that social media is impacting mental health, the way that it's creating polarization, the way that it's causing comparison in unhealthy and destructive ways. So should we just step away as the church? And the truth is, we shouldn't. We have to be on social media. I believe we're called to be on social media because Jesus didn't step away from the broken stuff when he was here, showing us how to live, showing us what ministry looked like. He stepped into the places where the people already were. And that brings us to truth number 2, the presence. Why, as the church, why should we still care about social media? And we all know the Great Commission. Jesus said, "Go therefore, make disciples of all nations." In 2025, one of the nations is the digital world. That Great Commission, it didn't come with a platform clause. It didn't say, go into all the world as long as it's in real life, as long as it's in a physical room, in a physical space with people. It said, go into all the world. And as our world has evolved in 2025, the digital world, where people are spending hours and hours and hours, that is one of the nations that we are called to go to as the church. Jesus modeled that and how he went to the town squares. He went to the synagogues. He went to the well. He went to the places where people were, no matter what the religious leaders of the day thought about whether he should or shouldn't go there. Social media, it's today's marketplace. It's where people go to search for questions, to try to find answers, to try to find entertainment. And it's where people bring their questions. It's where they bring their hopes. It's where they bring their pain. And the church, we can meet them there. See, we're not called as a church to compete for attention, but we are called to offer hope and meaning. And because we know that people's attention is on social media platforms, and we know that we're called to go therefore and make disciples of all nations, in 2025, as we're recording this, we're called to go and we're called to be present where the people are. And as churches, we're always trying to develop influence on people's lives, not for like self-serving reasons, but because we're called by God to share the love of Jesus. We want to help as many people as possible find and follow Jesus and experience the hope and the transformation and the purpose that comes from following Jesus. And so in order to build influence, we need to be present where people are. And our consistency online and our digital presence online through social media, it can help build trust with people that we're trying to gain influence with. So our consistency, our ability to be there, to be present where the people we're trying to reach are, really matters as we're trying to develop influence so that we can help people find and follow Jesus and all of the transformation that comes with that. Because caring about social media, it's not just about chasing the trends, it's about stewarding the call to go therefore and make disciples of all nations in digital worlds and social media, using tools that are shaping lives for better or for worse. And that brings us to truth number 3, the potential. What does good look like in a social media context? So social media can be so powerful. We talked about the peril at the beginning. There's also huge potential. And how can social media how can it help us? Where is the potential for good? The first thing is connection. When we're trying to reach people, maybe non-religious, nominally religious people who have been hurt by the church, who probably would never show up to a church in person, if we can help people find belonging, then oftentimes people will find belonging before they believe. And so creating connection through social media and helping people feel like that there's somebody that sees them and that they can belong in a digital space is going to help them start to build trust and start to pay attention to what we have to say. And then we're going to trust the Holy Spirit, and we're going to trust how God works in people's lives. So a lot of times connection through social media can help people find belonging before they even believe. Social media is an incredible opportunity for storytelling. Jesus is the life and ministry of Jesus, the life, death, and resurrection that defines our Christian faith is the greatest story ever told. Human brains resonate with storytelling, and social media is an incredible opportunity to share real stories, real testimonies, real transformation stories, and the way that lives are impacted in moments of grace. It's a huge storytelling opportunity so that we can share stories of what what Jesus does in people's lives when we find and follow him and dedicate our lives to him. Social media is a huge opportunity for discipleship with short form teaching, with daily devotions, with scripture reflections. We can meet people in the scroll. We can, if they're doom scrolling at night, if they're bored at work, or they're wherever they are, sitting in a car ride or pickup line, waiting to pick up their kids, we can meet people where they are. And for 30, 60, 90, 2 minutes, we can share discipleship resources. We can literally plant seeds of discipleship so that people, instead of scrolling through stuff that's not going to make them better and not going to help them, they can experience discipleship content that's going to draw them closer and help them grow in their faith, to develop their faith or to grow in their faith in Jesus. A lot of people look to social media before they make a decision to do something. So people are going to search for your church, search for your ministry through social media. And so social media is a great opportunity for invitation. If we can invite people not just to get involved with our ministries, but to take the next step, to download PDF guide, to comment with questions and prayer requests, to take whatever that best next step is in their spiritual journey. Social media is incredible for invitation. And social media is an opportunity for authenticity. We don't have to be perfect and performative. We can just turn on the cameras, we can send out the post that shows people what it really looks like to be involved in our communities with just full, genuine authenticity. It doesn't have to feel like marketing. It can feel like an invitation to say, hey, this is who we are. We're not perfect, and we know you're not either, and you can be a part of this life of following Jesus that can transform you and transform the world around you. Social media is also, it's an opportunity that's a potential for amplification, because social platforms today, they can allow a single story of hope to reach thousands of people who might never have heard it otherwise. And especially as we're recording this in 2025, the way that social media is evolving and how it's really becoming more about interest media instead of just social media, the size of your following no longer dictates how much reach your post can get. So one story can, regardless of the size of your following, can go viral, and you can get a bunch of eyeballs that are seeing what's possible through your church, through your ministry, through what Jesus can do in their lives. And then also there's accessibility. This is a really important one, because there's people with disabilities, there's people with anxiety, there's people with distance barriers, and online ministry through social media ministry, it might be their only way for them to engage with your community. And so it's an awesome opportunity for accessibility. So truth number 3, the potential, how social media can be ministry and can be used for good. Social media is like a megaphone. It can amplify chaos or it can amplify compassion. And as the church, as the people of God, for the glory of God, the church, we get to choose if we want to be amplifying chaos or if we want to be amplifying compassion. And that brings us to truth number 4, the path. We've talked about the peril. We've talked about the fact that we're called to be present there. We've talked about the potential of social media. So what does the path look like to engage in social media in a wise and healthy way? And I have 4 ideas for you here with the truth. The first one is, remember your purpose. Why are you there in the first place? You're called to ministry. You're called to help people find and follow Jesus. You are called to use every possible resource and every possible platform to introduce people to Jesus and help them experience the transformation that he offers. And so remember your purpose. You're not there for vanity metrics. You're not there for bragging rights. You're not there for any sort of self-serving purpose when you're in ministry. You're there because Jesus calls you to go and make disciples of all nations. And part of that in 2025 as churches, ministry leaders, is social media. So as you think about your path forward, start with your purpose. The second thing is, think about your platform. Who's your target audience? Who are you trying to reach? You probably can't be everywhere, and you probably can't post 7 times a day on every single platform. And so what platform are you going to focus on? And what platform helps you live into your unique purpose, your unique calling, and as part of what God is doing in the world? And then start with one platform. And Then after you start with your platform, number 3 is think about your posting schedule. First of all, do you even have a posting schedule? Do you have a plan for what you're doing? Are you just waking up wondering what to do? So develop a posting schedule. Think about your purpose. Think about the platform that you want to work on, and then develop a posting schedule. And if you want a framework, choose your platform and then focus on posting 3 to 4 times a week. Set a goal of posting every single week, not necessarily every single day, because we're called to be present in the social media world. And if you burn yourself out, if you try to do too much, if you get disheartened, if you get discouraged, and then you just stop worrying about it, you're not going to be present. And then people don't have the opportunity to find you in their feeds while they're scrolling through their social media accounts. So develop a posting schedule if you don't already. And if you do have a posting schedule, evaluate, is it realistic and is it sustainable? And if you want a starting point, post 3 to 4 times a week on your platform based on your purpose. And the last thing, as you think about the path forward, is focus on presence, not perfection. Okay, presence, not perfection, because you being there is an opportunity. Every single time you post something, it's an opportunity for one person to see one post that can have an impact on their lives. Because think about it this way. If you had an opportunity to send a message, to have a conversation with somebody, and you knew that it was going to make a positive impact on their lives, would you do it? And I think as a ministry leader, your answer without hesitation would be yes. So you being present in social media is an opportunity to be salt and light. We talked about the peril. Social media, it can be a dark and a rotten place. And it is a lot, actually. As the church, we have an opportunity to be salt and light in social media, so that if somebody's scrolling through their feeds, they're spending hours and hours on social media every week, if not every day, they're going to see a lot of stuff. And a lot of that stuff's not going to be great for them. But every time that a church or a ministry leader puts something out there that points to Jesus, it's a little bit of light and it's a little bit of salt that can make a difference. And so think about presence, not perfection, because what we want is we want to help people find and follow Jesus. And social media, it might be the most powerful communication tool that humanity has ever created. And it's also one of the most dangerous, as we've talked about. As the church, we can't afford to ignore either reality. We know that the people we're trying to reach are going to be on social media. So if we approach it with humility, if we approach it with creativity, if we approach it with purpose, then one post, one person, one community at a time, we can advance God's kingdom on earth as in heaven through our social media presence. So circling back to our question, why should we care? We should care because we're called to go where the people are, and they're on social media. And social media, like Jonathan Haidt talks about in this book, Anxious Generation, social media, like the peril is real. It can have a negative impact, but as the church, we're called to be salt and light, and social media is one of our opportunities to be salt and light, to make a difference, to help people know that Jesus loves them and know that we love them too, and to make the world just a little bit better, a little bit brighter. And we can do that one social media post at a time. So as you're thinking about all of this, as you're thinking about your path, think about, if you haven't done this already, here's your next steps. Number 1, define your purpose. Why are you on social media in the first place? What's your purpose as a church, as a ministry leader? What's your purpose? Take your purpose, move based on your purpose, move to the platform. What platform or platforms are you going to focus on? And then from there, what's your posting schedule going to be like? Because if you want to be sustainable on social media, you need a posting schedule. You got to plan ahead. You can't just wake up and think about, what am I going to do today? You need a plan in order for you to be able to execute sustainably. And then the last thing is just focus on being present. You don't have to be perfect. You just need to be present, because that's what Jesus calls us to do. So thanks for listening to this episode of Social Media Church. We are going to be here every week with interviews, with insights, with guidance to help you take advantage of a huge opportunity to make a big difference in the world through your social media strategy. Until next time.